The mother had a grown-up son who used to sleep like a log. He would never wake up in the morning early. He would never go to church to pray. And the mother was getting very worried. So she decided to go to the parish priest and talk about her son to find out what she could do. So she went and said, "Father, what to tell you about my son, Father? What to tell you? He's a grown-up boy, Father, but he sleeps like a log, never gets up early in the morning, no sense of responsibility, no prayers, no going to church." And the priest listened for a while, and he said to her, "Did you try, using some Bible passages to wake your son up in the morning?" "Father, I'm not very good with scriptures. Could you help me?" So the parish priest thought for a moment, and there's a scene in the gospel where a young man is dead and the widow and the mother is all worried and crying, and Jesus says to this young man who's dead, "Young man, I say to you, arise." Use this passage. If Jesus can raise a dead young man to life, he can, when you use this passage, you can really wake up your sleeping son to life. All right. But remember, you got to be firm in faith when you say those words. "All right, Father, I'll try it out." So next day, early in the morning, the mother went and stood outside her son's room, and with deep faith she said, "Young man, I say to you, arise." Nothing happened. The mother said, "I'm not going to give up." So she walked into the room this time, and for the second time she said, "Young man, I say to you, arise." This time the boy who was sleeping on the right turned to the left. He said, "Wow, it's working, it's working. I'm not going to give up. I'm going to use all my faith, and I'm going to say it for one last time." And for one last time with deep faith she said, "Young man, I say to you, arise." The young man slowly opened his eyes, looked at his mother and said, "Mother, my hour has not yet come." So if you think only you know scripture, your kids know better. And they know when to use what. And remember, this mother was having trouble with her 8 and 10-year-old kids. These boys were the most mischievous boys in town. If there was any trouble in town, the whole town knew that these two boys were involved. So the mother was trying her best to help them to behave well, but nothing worked. Then there was this preacher who came into this town who was very good at disciplining the kids. So the mother went over to the preacher and said, "Father, please do something about my boys. They are so mischievous. They're always getting themselves into trouble, and I don't know what to do." "All right, I will talk to them, but I will do it one at a time." "All right." So the mother decided to send the younger boy, 8-year-old boy, in the morning and the older one later in the afternoon. So the younger boy, 8-year-old boy, walked into the room of this priest, and the father looked at him with a stern voice, said to him, "Little boy, do you know where God is?" The boy was blinking, his mouth open wide, his eyes were wide open. He didn't know what the preacher was saying. And in an even sterner voice, the priest said the second time, "Do you know where God is?" Still wide open, mouth wide open, clueless what the preacher is saying. And for one last time with a big bang on the table, "Do you know where God is?" This time the boy screamed, ran out of the room, went and hid himself in the closet of his house. Everyone was searching for him. Finally, the older boy found him in the closet and asked him, "What happened?" "Oh boy, we are in big trouble this time." "What happened?" "God is missing and they think we have robbed him." It's huge trouble being parents today. It's challenging to raise up our kids to be good kids. But it's even more challenging for children today. There are lots of challenges our kids face today. A lot of pressure. The pressure to excel. The pressure to perform. The pressure to be someone successful. It is the world of the survival of the fittest. If you are not there, you're out of the race. There's tremendous pressure to be successful, to not to be a failure. Pressure to meet the expectations of their parents. There's also peer pressure. And even as they're growing up, they're trying to make sense of who God is. There's a lot of challenge and a lot of pressure. And as our children are going through a lot of pressure, what do our children require of us? What our children require of us is a lot of love and affection. Mother Teresa was once addressing a group of people. She was talking about the wonderful work that she was doing with the dying and the destitute and the poor and the marginalized. And there was a lady in the congregation. After Mother Teresa finished her speech, this lady stood up, put up her hand and said, "Mother, you are doing such marvelous work. Is there something that we can do to make this world a better place?" Mother Teresa looked at her and said, "Love your children." This lady thought probably Mother Teresa didn't understand my question. She put up her hand to repeat her question. Mother waved her hand and said, "There are many other things that you could do, but love your children the most. That is the best. Love your children the most. That is the best." How can we love our children? In order to help you in helping you to be successful parents in loving your children, I'm going to take the help of Gary Chapman, who wrote the book, The 5 Love Languages. It's a powerful book which you could also try and buy. It's a bestseller. And this book really helps of how you can become successful parents. The first love language that Gary Chapman talks about is the language of affirmation. A language of affirmation. Mark Twain once said that I could live for 2 months on a good compliment. That I can live for 2 months on a good compliment. An anxious heart weighs a man down, the proverb says, but a kind word cheers him up. There's great power in the words of affirmation. It is a great language of love. Words of affirmation builds a person. We all long for words of affirmation and appreciation. Who doesn't? And when you lavish those words of affirmation and appreciation upon your children, it builds their self-confidence. A little boy one day came back home with a piece of paper folded. And he went over to his mother and said, "Mother, my teacher in the school asked me to give this letter to you. Only you are supposed to read it. What does it say?" The mother opened the piece of paper, and as she was reading, tears welled up in her eyes. "Mother, what does it say?" She read, "Your son is a genius. This school is too small for him. Besides, we don't have good enough teachers to train him. You train him yourself." Later, the boy grew up. With time, his mother passed away, and this young man became one of the greatest inventors of all time. As he was going through his closet, he found that old piece of paper that his teacher had given to his mother. And he opened that piece of paper and he was surprised at what he read. It read, "Your child is mentally deficient. We can't keep him in our school. He is expelled." Your child is mentally deficient. We can't keep him in our school. He is expelled. That young man was so moved to tears. He took out his journal and with big bold letters he wrote, "Thomas Alva Edison was a mentally deficient child whose mother turned him into the genius of the century." Thomas Alva Edison was a mentally deficient child whose mother turned him into the genius of the century. The mother believed in her son. She lavished words of affirmation even when he was mentally deficient, believing that her son was the genius of the century. He went on to become the greatest inventor of the last century. Words of affirmation can build a person. So stop telling your child you're stupid, you're good for nothing. Stop comparing your child with another. Your child is special. Your child is unique. And you as parents are master craftsmen who are called to bring out the treasure in your child, to discover the beauty in your child. You are called to chisel out all those things in order to bring out the beauty of your child. If you don't believe in your child, no one else will. Words of affirmation can do a world of wonders. Dorothy Law had something very profound to say on this account. And this is what she writes. She says, if children live with criticism, they learn to condemn. If children live with hostility, they learn to fight. If children live with ridicule, they learn to be shy. If children live with shame, they learn to feel guilty. On the other hand, when we uplift and encourage children, we help them for life. If children live with tolerance, they learn to be patient. If children live with encouragement, they learn to be confident. If children live with praise, they learn to appreciate. If children live with fairness, they learn to be just. If children live with security, they learn to have faith. If children live with approval, they learn to like themselves. If children live with acceptance and friendship, they learn to find love in the world. Constructive, affirmative words can change the very destiny of your child. It'll help your child to be positive and brave and courageous. So don't forget the language of affirmation. It can change the very destiny of your child. The second love language is the language of time. If you ask your little child to spell love, this is how your little child will spell love. T-I-M-E. That's how a little child understands love. A little boy was waiting for his dad to come back from work. And as usual, his father showed up late from work. And the little boy was waiting. And the moment the father came, the little boy ran to his dad and said, "Dad, I've been waiting for you." And the dad looked at him, "Son, why haven't you gone to bed? It's already late." "No, Dad, I've been wanting to ask you something." "Ask me something? What is it about?" "Dad, I want to know, how much do they pay you for an hour?" "How dare you? Even your mother knows that." "But no, Dad, but please tell me. I really want to know, how much do they pay you for an hour?" "They pay me about $20 an hour." boy's face shrunk. And then he looked up at his dad and said, "Dad, can I borrow about $10 from you?" Oh, so this was what it was all about. You wanted money to buy some stupid toys. You're getting nothing. Go to your bed and go to sleep. So the boy went to his room, and father changed his clothes, had his supper, felt really bad. I shouldn't have treated my son that way. Walked into his son's room and said, "Son, are you asleep?" "No, Dad." "Here's your $10. Probably you wanted it for something." The boy's face lit up. He just grabbed that $10 from his father's hand, put his hand underneath the pillow, pulled out some crumpled notes, put them all together, and gave it back to his dad and said, "Dad, here is your $20. Can I have 1 hour of your time tomorrow?" "Dad, here is your $20. Can I have 1 hour of your time tomorrow?" I know many parents are guilty of not spending enough time with our children. We are so busy trying to give them a better tomorrow, while what they need is a better today. Your presence, your time. Quality time with your children is a great language of love. Spending time with your kids, you're telling your kids it's a sign of your love for them. When I'm talking about quality time, means quality time. I know how people spend time with their children today. The father's busy on his laptop, at the same time plugged to his iPad or iPod and doing multitasking and saying, "Oh yes, son, I'm listening to you." You're not. That's not the way you listen to your kids. When your kid comes and says to you, "Dad, I want to talk to you," put aside everything you're doing, your newspaper, your laptop, your mobile phone, and say, "Son, here I am. I want to listen to you. Talk to me." Quality time means giving undivided attention to your children, putting aside everything that's will become a hindrance in your relationship with your child. Same goes with the mother. Put aside everything. Spend more time with your children. It's alarming, the statistics of today's world. Children went on a protest in one of the countries in Germany recently. It was on WhatsApp. What was their protest on the streets of Germany? That their parents are spending more times on their mobile phone than with their kids. Kids of 7 and 8 went onto the street with placards protesting that their parents are spending more time in technology than with kids, with their own kids. Quality time is a language of love. The third language of love is the language of gift. Gift. When someone receives a gift, it's a sign of their love for them. That when a person receives the gift, the first thing that comes to that person's mind is that that person remembered me, thought of me. It's not about how expensive the gift is. It's not about how costly the gift has been. The fact that you gave that person as a gift, the person a gift, is your appreciation of your thoughtfulness. What is the greatest gift that you can give to your children? Not material things, my dear friends. The greatest gift that you can give your children is the gift of your presence. The gift of your presence. Just being with them is the greatest gift that you can give. A little boy was all excited because his father promised him that for the weekend he will take him out for fishing. And the little boy was all waiting for the weekend to come because he was looking forward to that moment where he would go for fishing with his dad. The weekend came, the father totally forgot about it because he had so many appointments. So the little boy was waiting and said, "Dad, what happened?" "About what?" "We were supposed to go for fishing." "Oh, I forgot about it. I've got a meeting." "No, Dad, but you promised to go with me for fishing." All right, so the father canceled his appointment, went with the son, spent the whole afternoon by the river fishing, came back home, they caught nothing. So the father went to his room, took out his journal, and he wrote, I went fishing with my son Johnny, caught nothing, a total waste of time. The little Johnny went to his room, took out his journal, and he wrote with big bold letters, went fishing with my dad. It was the best day of my life. Went fishing with my dad. It was the best day of my life. What seemed like a waste of time for the father meant for the kid the best time of his life. Your presence can make a world of difference. Sometimes I'm invited as chief guest for school programs, and the kids are all dressed up waiting to perform for their parents, and the teachers have taken a great deal of trouble to prepare these kids, and all of them are lined up. They come onto the stage. The teacher's trying to maintain the discipline on the stage, but the little kids are all excited. They're all looking into the crowd to find out where their mom is, where their dad is. At the moment they spot them in the crowd, they're all excited and they just start waving. And after the program is over, they come running to mom and dad and they say to you, Mom, did you see that? Dad, did you see that? Your presence meant the world for them. They were on stage not to perform for the school, but to perform for you. To see your child doing such wonderful things. So be there for those special moments when your child is performing in an athlete's program or on the stage. Your presence will make a world of difference. Your child will remember that moment forever and treasure. My dad was there. My mom was there. Moments like graduation ceremony, be there. It's a special moment of your child. Your presence will make a world of difference. The fourth love language is the language of physical touch. Physical touch. In his book, My Father, My Son, the Dr. C.S.R. narrates a very powerful incident. It's an interview that he had with Mark Chapman, the convicted slayer of the lead singer of Beatles, John Lennon. During the course of the interview with Mark Chapman, this is what Mark Chapman said to Dr. C.S.R. My father never hugged me. He never told me that he loved me. I always longed for his love and attention. Then he goes on to make a very startling statement, because he will never get out of prison to live out his dream. He goes on to say to Dr. C.S.R., if ever I have a son, this is what I will do. I will hug him and I will kiss him and I will tell him, son, I love you. You can always count on me. You can always treasure me. Unfortunately, he will never get out of prison to live his dreams. Then Dr. C.S.R. concludes his book by saying, fathers, don't be ashamed to hug your children. Mothers, the same with your children. Physical touch is the greatest language of love and affirmation. It builds confidence and affection with your children. In a research, babies that were held and hugged grew up to be confident children than those who were left by themselves in the cradle. Unfortunately, today, the children are more close to their maids than they are to their parents. It's a sad reality. Go home and give your children a hug. Tell them you love them. Physical touch is a great sign. It's a language of love. Lastly, the language of service. When Jesus, on the night before he died, he girded himself with a towel, went on his knees and washed the feet of his disciples. And he said, if I, your Lord and Master, wash one another's feet, you also ought to do one another. Service is the hallmark of love. Likewise, a family that reaches out to one another in service brings in a spirit of love and joy in the family. Find creative ways of doing things together, having fun together, playing a game together, going out on a long trek together, going on a long drive together. Have fun together as a family. It's a great act of love. Doing things together, either washing a car, decorating for Christmas, preparing a meal together, everyone getting involved. It's not just the mother in the kitchen, but children and husband together. Everyone doing things together. It brings bond and unity. Just the other day, I said to you, the family that prays together stays together. I want to tell you one more thing. The family that eats together stays together. I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you sat together as a family and had a meal together? I know in so many of our homes, we take our plates, serve our food, and go and sit before this idiot box or before our laptop or plug our ears to music or do some stuff. Meal time is a time of fellowship. Come together at least once a day or at least twice a week. Make it a point, a time of fellowship where you have a meal together. Talk about what happened throughout the day. A family that eats together stays together. Don't forget the love languages. Words of affirmation, time, gift, physical touch, and acts of service. These are great signs of your love for your children. We are now going to be praying for all the children who are here in this congregation. And we're going to ask for God's blessings. It is a challenge to bring up children today, but what they need is our presence and our love.